Welcome to ASQ Webcast presentation of ISO 9001-2008 in police organizations. I'm Bill Baez with ASQ, and today we have with us presenting on this topic, David Amari. 24 years of experience in police operations and improvement in virtually all operational sections from patrol to crime lab as both a police employee and a consultant. Pioneer in developing the application of ISO 9000 family of international quality management standards in policing in the United States. And since 2001, David has been very busy. He served in multiple quality management capacities, including being the original conceptual application designer, a management representative for the police departments of Phoenix and Surprise, Arizona, an advisor to police departments worldwide, an advisor to the United States Department of State, and a program director and consultant for the Houston Police Department. And additionally, David is currently the ANSI U.S. TAG 176 head of the United States delegation in the development of international guidelines on the application of ISO 9001-2008 in policing organizations. So today, David has kindly offered to share this great introduction to ISO 9001-2008 in policing, from implementation to some of the overlooked and critical factors to consider. But I talked long enough. David, thank you so much for taking the time to share your knowledge on this topic with our quality community. Now let me pass the microphone over to you to get things started.
Thank you, Pablo, and thank you to ASQ for allowing me to do this. This is a great opportunity. There are police departments in virtually every community all over the world, and it's incumbent upon all those police departments to be as effective, efficient as possible. And so much interest in policing, as evidenced by movies, books, TV programs, etc. And the vast majority of police agencies are very good at keeping our community safe, which is their core function. It should be commended for the efforts in that particular area. The truth is that police departments are extremely expensive to operate, and we have a duty not only to the community itself, but to other city departments, our partner city departments, to become as effective and efficient as possible. And we've discovered that the ISO 9001-2008 standard will help us accomplish just that, is to become more efficient and effective. Now, I'll talk a little bit about my background. We've had a lot of success doing this in large departments and small departments as well. And I'll go through those activities as we go, and then we'll just kind of work with some of these background activities. At the Surprise Police Department, I recently retired from Surprise, and we were employing the ISO 30N1 police unit there to manage property and evidence. From the program advisor perspective, as Pablo mentioned, I've been working with agencies and police agencies all over the world. My background is educational, is management, and public administration, which is kind of a good fit here because we're using management principles to guide public administration activities. And I'll talk a little bit about the 12 guidelines and the event that took place in Abu Dhabi. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But our agenda here today is to talk about why ISO 9001-2008 for police. Major success stories here. There's a business of policing. Quite often we don't hear that. We typically hear the contrary, in that these principles won't apply to police departments because we're police. That doesn't fit. Well, this presentation will show that it does indeed fit. We'll talk a little bit of the executive focus, why police departments need ISO, what a typical executive focus is, and why we should transition to a more business-like approach. About the actual application of ISO 9001, how do we get it there? How do we get police departments to understand it, to apply it? Who's involved with it? Who are the stakeholders? What environment are we working in, etc. We'll also use the ISO 9000 to formulate our commitment to excellence in the police industry. We'll also give some examples. As we go through this presentation, we'll give you several examples of areas that have been improved through the application of ISO 9001. It's not theory. We have hard evidence, so to speak, in terms of that's what we can all become when using business principles in a police environment. And then the long-term benefits, how police organizations are typically improving long-term in improving its operations, getting people involved at the high levels, at the low levels, and everywhere in between. So get through all this in as quickly as possible, and set you on your way. So we started this program. We identified the ability of ISO 9001 way back in 2000, and it took us a while to do this in Phoenix PD. It took us a little bit of time to figure out, does it actually fit? We talked to a lot of people, and it did. And we moved our organization, Records and Identification Bureau, we moved our organization to become the first unit in the States to obtain the ISO 9001-2000 registration. That led to a lot of notoriety that we were not prepared for, but a lot of people were asking questions. How did this work? They had to publish articles, things like that. And so articles were published. People started seeing the Phoenix Police Department as a leader in quality management and the clear benefits of what we were able to accomplish. From that certification, our original certification, the Houston Police Department, which is the fifth largest department in the United States, in the fourth city, but the fifth largest department, contacted us, and we've established a mentoring relationship with the Houston Police Department through phone calls, emails, personal visits, things of that nature, because they were very interested in improving their operations in the city of Houston. And from that point, it took us a little while to get people going in that direction, but they actually get it. And to be honest with you, they are clearly the model for other organizations to follow. They're using an incremental approach. They succeed in one area and they move on to another and just keep applying the same quality management principles to move organizations to and efficient providers of whatever service they're providing. From that, I also worked with the police department, and they're in progress working on their property and evidence warehouse. We have a responsibility in policing to manage property and evidence very effectively, efficiently, to ensure that we always have it, we can always find it, and we destroy it when necessary. Evidence is not required, police departments are not required to maintain evidence forever, except in perhaps homicide, sexual, things like that. But we need to transition evidence and property out of the warehouse so that we don't filling it up. That's a common problem in police agencies. We store it, but we don't do a very good job at getting rid of it when it's required and authorized legally to destroy or dispose of evidence. And we also worked closely with the Abu Dhabi police, United Arab Emirates. Their entire department from what I understand, is approximately 35,000 people in a variety of operations. Our entire department is certified to the ISO standard, and they've taken the lead in creating and ultimately publishing a document that guides police departments in the application of the ISO 9001-2008 standard. And I was fortunate enough to represent the United States at that conference in Abu Dhabi back in September 2013. There were approximately 80 people there from 25 countries. It was a first-class event. The people were very gracious. There was a lot of information sharing, and we ultimately achieved our objective by sending a draft set of guidelines to the International Organization for Publication. And in December of 2013, that document was indeed published, and so available at the ISO website. And very interesting, we have an international flavor for using the ISO standard in policing. So, as we mentioned a little bit earlier, that so many people say, this stuff doesn't work in police. We're so different. But if you think about it and look at these components here, we're not different from major organizations. We have a huge budget. We do strategic planning on a short and long-term basis. We manage our facilities, many of which are spread throughout the community. In Phoenix alone, they have 8 precincts. Houston is much bigger, but Phoenix has 8 precincts. We have crime labs, property rooms, so lots of different facilities that we have to manage. Lots of equipment, multi-million-dollar equipment budget, things of that nature. Obviously, we have information technology, human resources, etc. We have all these things. Not one of these things looks like it's a police operation, but all of them. And so it's, again, incumbent upon us to manage these things well, and the ISO 9001-2008 really helps us do that. Typical business structure, it's not much different from what you see here. We have a chief of police, and we have several different or bureaus within the department, as you'll see from this slide here. This is taken from the Iowa 12 2013 guidelines that was built in Abu Dhabi. And what you see if you look at some of these process boxes, you can see the same things we would see in a typical business. We have human resources, training, employee services, budget and finance, things of that nature. But you also have some of police operations, narcotics, identification, organized crime, things like that. But we still have the business function to make sure those things are managed well. What, however, is police executives are traditionally long-term police executives. They've gone to the academy. They've become parole officers, sergeants, lieutenants, captains, etc., and worked their way up the ranks, and ultimately they're police executives managing these major police business operations. What we find is that while being great cops with great experience in policing, the focus is a bit limited to the police, and I don't mean that negatively. This is just culturally, their focus on the police function, and that's specific data collection, data analysis, performance trends related to crime frequency and reduction. There's not so much focus on efficiency. There's not so much focus on operational effectiveness. The information, of course, making sure we have quality information and that we share it with neighboring communities, neighboring police departments, etc. But for they're really making sure that our patrol officers and our detectives are well staffed. They have the right tools, they have the right training and tactics available to them, both sworn and civilian. It's typically the two classes of, I don't mean to say classes, but classes of police employees. You have the sworn folks, and those are actual police officers, detectives, etc., and then the civilian folks who perform supporting operations, supporting activities for the department. But constantly looking at other things. One point there about this is that they have a lot of leadership training. They attain a lot of leadership training. They get a lot of leadership training because it's similar to a military operation. And leadership is critically important. But if you ISO 9001-2000 standards, and we'll show you those in a few minutes, but the quality management principles, this is but one of 8 principles. And the 2000 standard requires that we employ all of these principles, and it's not just a focus on leadership. Lots of tools to help us get better in those quality management principles. This is just to show you the IACP is the International Organization for Chiefs of Police. This is the actual booth exhibitor floor plan, and you're hard pressed to find the quality management booth or how to streamline your operations or process mapping booths or things like that. you're going to find equipment, you're going to find gizmos, vehicles, emergency management vehicles, command vans, things of that nature, various scientific techniques, weaponry, things of that sort, even helicopters, air support units, surveillance equipment, things like that. You won't operational improvement, and if you do, it's going to be maybe one or two booths that's similar to that. But there is exception. The police, for example, when I visited Abu Dhabi, we had a visit to Dubai as well, which was about an hour and a half away. And these are some of their police vehicles. And if you can imagine that they go to, it was kind of interesting when asked, the chief of police there has a different rank than chief of police, but the chief of police said that police department should be required to fit into their community. And this is their community. If you look at the amount of wealth in Dubai, you will note that by having these kinds of cars, they fit into the community. They're a part of the community, and it just seemed amazing that they would have some cars that are several $100,000 that they use on a typical day. And so they are only the exception. They have a vast amount of resources, but in the United States, for example, our resources are limited and very precious. So if you look at traditional or a typical organization within our country, within the United States, or basically anywhere else, quite often we will find that there are so many issues beyond the police function that we have to deal with that just are not and not effective. We look at ineffective allocation of resources. We have to be compliant to various statutory regulatory requirements. An issue with, while we are compliant, are we actually performing at a high level? We have to marry those two things. Not only do we want to be compliant, but we want to perform at a very high level. One of the other things is necessary tasks are always visible. We had an example where we were asking a team, about a particular report that they process on an every other week basis, and through their process for going through that report and making it available to other people. And we actually discovered that the report was being done on paper, requiring 3,200 pages, a very lengthy report that was printed every other week, and we had to make copies. And it was discovered that there was an electronic version developed of this report, but nobody really told the processing team, and they kept providing these 3,200 pages to the department when the actual report was electronic and we needed to do nothing. So a huge amount of savings. We stopped that process immediately, but a huge amount of savings was realized as a result of stopping that process. We didn't need to do that. And quite often in police agencies, new things come along, but we don't stop the old things. And that had replaced. And so that's the kind of thing we're looking for by critically examining what it is we do. Issue here is that quite often we don't document. We don't document our processes effectively. We have operating procedures, we have policies and things like that. Policies are regularly updated, but SOPs are not regularly updated. Some agencies have original SOPs from sometime, 5 years old that just never got updated. They were created, they're put on a shelf, and they're not really very useful. So by looking at ISO standards and documenting where required or where needed, those are the kinds of things that we're doing in police now is looking at our SOPs, looking at our processes, documenting them and making them available to the workers at the work site. It's helped us tremendously by getting the people people involved, getting our executives involved as well as our line staff. Example of down below, you'll see silo management. One example of traditional management style is we were tasked with developing a new bureau with not necessarily a specific set of operational responsibilities, but we were developing the new bureau to start creating some operational necessities and the responsibilities related thereto. But when we had our first meeting, the first discussion point was, should we have a captain? If we have a captain, we have to have 3 lieutenants. If we have 3 lieutenants, we have to have 6 sergeants. And then it works its way down through the number of officers that you need to create this new bureau. But the idea is to do what? The question, what were we responsible for doing? And the traditional approach is create the org chart, and that's the silo portion of it because everybody's used to that. Let's create the org chart and then start to figure out what we're going to do. Well, the standard helps us realize that let's look at what we do first and then figure out who's competent, who's trained, who's aware of what we need to do to get this done and get those people into that bureau. So that's one of the ways we addressed the silo management problem. In addition to that, the reactive versus proactive. You might have heard the expression that we always have plenty of money and plenty of resources to fix disasters, but we rarely have enough money and resources to prevent them occurring in the first place. Well, the ISO standard helps us realize that prevention is the key to success, to efficiency, to effectiveness. We don't want disasters occurring. We don't want inefficiencies. And so we want to start moving and transitioning to a proactive management style rather than reactive. However, in policing, that's our culture. I mean, police is traditionally a reactive industry, but we need to start thinking about how can we move to more proactive in preventing things that are occurring in the first place. Not necessarily out on the street, but management areas. And then other things that come up. You may have seen this poster. This was a poster that was provided to me by a fellow at Houston Crime Lab, Houston Police Crime Lab. And it pretty much states that just because you've always done it that way doesn't mean it's not incredibly stupid. Quite often we just keep doing things the same way because we've always done it that way. And we hear that day in and day out. And so we want to make sure that people understand that we do need to move to another area. We do need to move to more improved ideas, some innovative ideas on policing. You can find those ideas anywhere, from pages at the FedEx level or UPS or any of the other courier type levels through wireless communications and wireless barcode scanners, et cetera, like that. Room warehouses are now transitioning to that very issue. Some of them are very paper-focused, where you write, and now there's technology involved where you can wirelessly track an item anywhere in the city, anywhere in the department, or anywhere in the warehouse through wireless communication, et cetera, barcode scanners, new ideas that were not traditionally in police departments. The other is that sometimes our technology drives operations, and examples of not working as closely as we could with our users is that while technology is available, and it's absolutely great, and this is not an indictment on that, the technology is fabulous, quite often it doesn't do what we need it to do at the level we need to do it. And so while we have that technology and we use it regularly, we also have redundant systems we have to track other information that is not included in our technology or our available technology. So now we have an even larger investment in technical operations. Information is captured multiple times. And so it's always going to be a challenge, but it's something to take a look at. So we need to improve the area as well. So as you can see, the police departments are set up as businesses. They're structured like businesses. They have some of the same issues that businesses have in terms of management problems, operational problems, etc. And ISO 9001, 2008 really provides that foundation of police excellence that we all need. The only challenge or the issue there is that not all police folks they don't know about this, and that's why we're presenting this approach. It provides structure. It provides structure to how we operate our business. One area, i.e. patrol, for example, or the investigations group, while they're the primary service providers to our community, to our stakeholders, etc., support units are hugely important to make those operations run more effectively. If you improve support, your investigations operations will be that much smoother as well. So basically, everybody is important in the organization, and ISO provides that systematic approach to making sure that everything is addressed and well connected, and efficient all the way around. The line of police mission objectives. Each specialty unit has a mission, and the idea is to connect all those missions into a police objective, a department objective. And the holistic look at an organization needs to be managed more by a system and not just a collection of individual operations. And that's what's helping us through the ISO 9001-2008 standard. So let's start looking at data points and analytics that are more understandable to the community. You'll hear the crime rate is going down, it's down by 10%, it's up by 5%, whatever it might be. But that doesn't necessarily mean a whole lot to the community, even though there's a trend there. What does that actually translate into? The Phoenix Police Chief one time mentioned that, yes, while our crime rate is down, what does that mean to the community? Well, the crime rates and our number of calls and our number of crimes, that means 15,000 fewer victims this year. And that's something that really impact on the community. 15,000 fewer victims is an extremely important metric that we want to achieve on a regular basis. So a little bit earlier, the quality management principles, with the leadership commitment being but one, we also make sure that our customers are well taken care of. We understand what they need. We involve people at the highest and the lowest level. The critical component in all departments is that from the records clerk all the way up to the chief of police, there has to be an alignment. Everybody needs to know what our mission is and needs to formulate their activities based on that mission. And we need to involve them. We have an example in Houston where the property clerks at a warehouse sat with executive assistant chief and explained their process. And it was a huge deal for them. It made them feel relevant. They're engaged. They're doing a great job over there. And the executives are heavily involved in this whole program, as are the line staff. So that's what we're trying to discuss here, is that there's involvement of people at the level. The system approach, as we talked about, we want to make sure everything's connected, and we're always getting better at what we do. If you zoom in on some of those, there's an explanation regarding the police department. The Surprise Police Department here in Arizona created this poster, and it's posted on several walls throughout the organization. So our police stakeholder needs, we have to understand who they are. And there's a graphic that I'll show you how all this connects. But from a police department, traditionally, we have a governing body, the mayor, city council, other city departments, as we alluded to earlier. Those folks are involved in guiding our operations and how we need to perform operations to meet their needs. We also have enforcement agencies, local, county, tribal, etc., don't seem to have an idea about boundary or people are going to commit crimes, etc. They don't care about the boundaries, who's got the jurisdiction. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to make sure that we communicate well, we don't have jurisdictional battles that you see on TV on a regular basis, where they're fighting among each other to determine who's taken the case and things like that. We have to have a collaborative approach to ensure that we're keeping communities safe regardless of the jurisdiction. And the information sharing component of ISO 9001-2008 helps do just that, communicate well. It should be a requirement among police departments to ensure that they have solid communication internally and externally. Of course, to deal with the judicial system, submitting cases, trying cases, etc. So we have to provide cases at the level required so that they could be prosecuted, and as well as defended. To be fair, our whole system is based on prosecution and defense and getting a fair defense and rights, constitutional rights, etc. So we have to be mindful of all of those things. So the judicial system and completeness has an impact on police department as well. Community, the legitimate community, of course, victims, witnesses, businesses, things like that, or people like that. We have to make sure that we're addressing their needs as well. But we also have the criminal community. We have to treat suspects, investigative leads, arrested persons a certain way, and have to have their rights maintained, etc. And so we have stakeholders all around us in operating our police departments. Out of the Iowa 12 2013 guidelines that we talked about earlier, shows just that. At the top, you'll see the external stakeholders we talked about. This is our quality management environment at the police level. They have needs. They have public safety and security requirements. And our police operations are not linear. They're all combined. They're not chronological. Everything is combined. And so we use the concentric circle diagram here to show that everything is connected so that we can provide police and security services at the level needed. And if they're not at the level needed, then we have to make adjustments, and we hear about that through our external stakeholders. And so there's a cycle there that we embrace, that we need to keep getting better, and continual improvement is a key component there. So how to do it? That's all the theory. We have what our issues are in police departments. We have what our executives are thinking. We have the focus on equipment. We have the problems that we incur on a daily basis. And that ISO is right there. So how do we do it? We have to do it. We have to educate people. And a key component is not looking at the totality of the project or the transition or transformation, but to hit the program incrementally. Experience some success. Validate, verify your success with other areas so that they want the program as well. And that is what typically happens. If you finish one program, there are 2 or 3 lined up waiting to get their start. And so an incremental approach is very effective. Evaluate your success. Evaluate whether or not you've failed toward improving it, and then expanding it throughout the department. There's a serious where with the saving money when you're using some of the same processes. There are a lot of different management processes that every single bureau has, and if we can identify best practices at those management levels and implement them as a department mandate, then we don't have all of these renegade type processes. Budget development is budget development. You should have necessarily a unit budget development versus a department budget development. It's typically the same thing. And so you standardize best practices, you're going to be much better off, and it starts to become cheaper to implement when you're using some of the same processes over and over again because they've been proven to be successful. Mindset shift is critically important. Departments, fire departments, and other departments like that are heavily involved in their tradition. They embrace it. They want to maintain it. They want to carry it forward. And I agree with that wholeheartedly. However, we have to also step back and evaluate that tradition and how it might negatively impact our service levels. keep the tradition, but evaluate, and then challenge the status quo, the expression that we used before. We've always done it that way. Challenge that and see if we can maintain tradition while throwing out some of the old and ineffective ideas and make them better, and still maintain that tradition. Bring in the new. Look at other ways of doing business. You'll be surprised at how many police employees want to improve. I was taken aback by their interest in this, and we started at a small bureau, but the police people, who once they were exposed, really wanted more of it. And so it's our opportunity here to expose this operation or this technique to other police departments and other police personnel. Get engaged at the lower and higher levels. You'll many other management techniques, but to be honest with you, starting here at the ISO 9001-2008 level, they get people, and this program gets people involved. They're engaged. They have so many answers. They sit around the office at the lunchroom and outside the department and talk about, I wish we could do things this way, I wish we could do things that way. The program really helps us get there, tapping the knowledge that's available to us and utilizing that knowledge and engaging employees at all levels. So it helps us do that. And it states at the bottom, it may be different. It is a business program for the most part in a law enforcement agency, but its success has been tremendous. PD, when we first moved to the ISO world, we improved operations tremendously. We had a better understanding of who our customers were. But that project, our initial project, led to a follow-on project that led to savings of $11 million. What happened was, as we talked about before, property needs to be disposed of, and if you don't dispose of it, of course it's got to be legal. If you don't dispose of it, ultimately your warehouse will become full. And there are techniques and processes that are employed typically to remove property when the time is right. And opening in Phoenix is those processes were not being employed. They were there, they were required, they just weren't getting done. And as a result of this investigative system project, we discovered that they weren't getting done because there was a challenge associated with that not getting done. And it started done, and we ultimately the need for a brand new warehouse. And they're still in the same warehouse today, and the need for a warehouse is not for storing property that we don't need in the first place, but it's more based on growth of our community. We're a fast-growing area out here in Phoenix, but based on that, it shouldn't be based on inefficient processes or ineffective processes. It should be based on something more effective, and that's growth in the area. 88% of our case assignments, another time savings, huge time savings. Then we helped the city's housing department reduce their vacancy rate from 12% to 2% using these same principles, using the same documentation methodology. Houston is on another planet in terms of their improvements. Same issue in their warehouse, and they took steps to move from a ratio from input to output down away, so that input was not exceeding output by that much, and that expands the lifetime of their brand new warehouse as well. When they first moved in, they had storage issues with regard to space requirements, etc., and they were able to start employing their disposal techniques that we developed or helped them develop in Houston. And great over there. They've also identified equipment that saves a lot of money, and what happens is while you expend some money, you get the money back in efficiencies. For example, they have a gun disposal process that used to require several people and a traveling off-site to destroy the guns. And what they did is identify a gun detection device that is relatively small, and they eliminated that entire process. It was very expensive to perform, and all they did was they purchased a gun destruction device, and within 1 year they were able to break even. And now it's all savings, and they've taken that step to other areas as well, including other destruction type equipment that will preserve the safety of employees as well as the time it takes to destroy items that need to be destroyed. So they're doing gangbusters over there in Houston in improving their operation. And at Rise PD, they've achieved a 100% success rate over 2 years using their new principles, new procedures, and the ISO principles as well. So the thing to remember is police departments have a wide variety of activities. There are huge benefits, a wholly transformed organization. We have a commitment to better collaboration and improving operations, organizational innovation, etc. Important is that we have increased organizational knowledge. We are now more interconnected as police departments, and we know what everybody else does. We're not just crammed in a room in a silo management environment. And so we have to deal more closely with each other. We have to understand who our customers are, who our suppliers are. That way we can better serve them. And the whole idea is that, we're reducing crime because we're using our valuable resources more effectively and more efficiently. That's a proven fact. We've seen that time and again, where crime rates going down based on improvements in our operations. So that, I want to thank Pablo again for the opportunity. It was hopefully you learned a little more about the ISO world and how it impacts police departments. It has impacted them for close to 15 years now. It's a slow growth industry, but it's really working well. And I thank you for the opportunity to share this information. And hopefully you'll be able to pass that on to some of your government body and some of your police agencies in your community. So with that, I'll pass it back to Pablo. Thank you again for your interest.
Thank you very much, David, for your contribution to ASQ with this wonderful webcast on this fascinating topic. I really love the case studies, very impressive. For those of you interested in learning more about David's work, you can email him with questions. He's at isoamari@gmail.com. You can also call him directly with questions and take advantage of that opportunity as well. He's at 602-696-1127. Give him a call, send him an email, ask him questions, learn about the process. To learn about this through the ISO organization, you can go to the International Organization for Standardization, and that's at www.iso.org. To learn more about the topic through ASQ, we have a knowledge center, which is at asq.org/knowledge-center, that's full of articles, case studies, books, and webcasts on topics just like this one and the application of the ISO standards. That's it for now. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you at our next webcast event.